Good evening and welcome to another Green TV live broadcast of the Pat Foundation. Tonight we've got a very special guest, Steve Burns. So, hi, I'm Gail Acaster. How are you, Steve?
Hi Gail, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually, it's been a bit of a strange one today. The kids have both gone back to school. I know you've got a son, so you've experienced that nerves in them going back to school. Straight back into work. We've had thunderstorm, torrential rains, and now it's blazing sunshine. So I'm a little bit confused as a human being right now. We've had every season in one, but what's it like where you are?
I've only got home today. I drove back up from Poole. Hunter went back. He went back to school last week, so he's already been back a week.
Oh,
In Poole, where it was blazing sunshine yesterday, and it started raining, so drove back to the northwest, and it's cool
oh.
today, which is pretty standard, isn't it? The northwest.
It's really warm. I'm feeling sort of really warm. I've got a little bit of a sweat on and everything. But so back to the show. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And I think we're in our 30 now with the episodes with the show. So it's really gaining traction now. And we're really enjoying doing it. So first of all, for people that don't know you, Steve, tell us who you are and you know what you do currently, which is a little bit confusing because you've just joined the Green Task Force. However, we will talk about obviously Op Spartan a bit later on in the chat. So just a brief overview of who you are right
Yeah,
now.
so I'm Steve Burns, former Royal Marines, former SBS. Left the military back in 2012, which is almost 10 years now. When I left the military, I left with a bit of a few personal issues going on, should we say. Since then, since coming out the other side of it, I've used my kind of learnings in what I went through to try and help other people, to save other people going through that. 2017, I set up WEO, which is it was designed as an app to drive parents to spend more quality time with their kids. As a single parent, I realized very quickly that in the tech world, you can spend a lot of money and really not scratch the surface. So I plodded on with that for a couple of years and then got so far, and then very quickly turned my attention to the veteran community in 2019 after losing yet another friend to suicide. And that I've been doing that for the last 2 years full time, whilst obviously going through lockdowns, homeschooling, all the rest of it. And then now looking to team up with you guys at Planetary Today Foundation and Green Task Force. So it's been non-stop, but it's all good.
Well, yeah, definitely. So that brings me nicely. Thanks for that, Steve. So tell me about your time, obviously, in the Marines. And there is a backstory. I've read the news articles and, for your time there, which obviously led you on your journey to, the problems that you experienced after. And it's obviously led to where you are today. Everybody has journeys and everybody has a backstory to gain where they are today. So if you wouldn't mind sharing for our viewers a little bit about, your time and sort of what happened, if that's okay with you.
So I joined the Marines at 16, and I was very much keen to experience operational tours. Had a great time in the Corps, but kind of didn't find that I was getting that itch scratched, if you like, for what I was seeking. I did selection in 2006, and then kind of got the operational tours that I was kind of craving. I had a very busy time, and I loved it. It was everything that I had been searching for, and it was kind of craving, I suppose. I was awarded the Military Cross in 2010, and it was then when I on the outside, everything was rosy. I was kind of doing really well. Promotion course was coming top of the courses, but actually inside, I was kind of a bit of a mess. And when I got the Military Cross, instead of it being a kind of pat on the back type moment for myself, it was almost like a realization that, well, what am I going to do now? And that's when I pressed the self-destruct button. Got into a very volatile toxic relationship. Left the military 2012, kind of with a bit of a cloud over my head. The kind of reputation that I had built up, I pretty much destroyed it, I suppose, and kind of that's something that I kind of think about now even. But I left 2012, and the issues continued until about 2014. And it was only through going through sounds Chad, but I suppose a journey of self-discovery that I started to work out why I was feeling the way I was. I had support from Rock's Recovery, and when I was getting Malcolm, one of the lead coaches, he worked with me all the time. He put a lot of time aside. There was times when I was in hospital, and he was the only person that I would allow to come see me. And every time he would work with me, he kind of went back to my childhood. And I was kind of almost to the point where I'd be annoyed. I was like, Malcolm, why we keep going back to that? I want to focus on the problems now. Obviously, not really understanding how the mind works and being quite naive. But as it turned out, a lot of the stuff related back to my childhood. No, I didn't have a bad childhood. It was pretty normal. But well, it was normal in the sense that it was.
What is normal? What is normal?
Kind of, yeah, like families splitting, parents split up, and so I realized a lot of it relayed back to my childhood. In fact, none of it was down. I don't attribute any of it to service life. In fact, it was my time in the service that I was kind of covering over, if you like. And it's mad to think that I went on a really successful career, achieved so much, and then at the end of it, still kind of my childhood still caught up with me. But I had to go through that. Before the bad times, if you like. I was Steve Burns in a uniform. That's all I knew about. That's all I knew. I literally put a uniform on.
And hid behind it.
Yeah. And then when I left, even before I left, when I ran out of the road for external validation, that's when I started having these issues, and I had to go through that to come out the other side to realize who I was as a person.
Yeah, and that's road to self-discovery. It can be something little that triggers us, and it can be something, whether it is something deep set from childhood, and then you went and did your time in the forces, and that brought it out of you. It's that realization. So tell our viewers those, because there'll be people watching this, similar stories or completely different stories. How do you take those first steps to the discovery, for example? I mean, I have a self-discovery journey too, but what was it for you that took those first steps, and how did you reach out?
Well, so I was awarded the Military Cross. I got the Leatherneck award for command leadership, best command and leadership on the junior command course in the Marines. And like I said, to the outside world, everything's looking rosy and I'm flying. But within 3 months of all those things happening, I was self-harming, and I was diagnosed with depression from the sickbay. I felt really guilty. The lads were going away on a tour. I managed to get myself back together and then deploy with them. Still not really there was a lot of domestic stuff going on in my relationship. And when people were trying to tell me to do, meditations and guided meditations, self-development books, all that sort of stuff, I would look at it and go, and the words in my head were, I don't want to do this shit. I just want to be normal.
Yeah.
So I didn't touch it. I turned my nose to it, and I just wanted to be normal. I was very narrow-minded, and we're just here, and you're in your lane, and you just crack on. I didn't really I didn't take a step outside of what was going on to disassociate from what was going on, to think about it too much. It was just trying to move forward.
And don't you find, sorry, I'm just cutting in there, don't you find that in the forces you are kind of told to put up and shut up? It is kind of ingrained in it, get on with it, not feel emotions, and
there is that kind of just crack on mentality, and I think that serves a purpose. But it wasn't until around about 2014 when I started getting into self-development, and then I did transcendental meditation, and I wanted to do all sorts of challenges to show other people you can do whatever you put your mind to. And that was kind of about the time when my son came to live with me. But I suppose there was a realization when I was sat in my car, and I was kind of going through a lot of stuff. I'd been in and out of hospital. My car was my refuge, if you like, and it was covered in blood from where I had been self-harming, and I got it was, I'm not going to say a spiritual awakening or anything like that, but
I know exactly what you mean.
There was a realization. There was something that said the reason you're going through this is because you're strong enough to deal with it, and then you need to learn. There's a lesson you need to learn from it, and then from that, I was like, okay, So if this is happening for a reason, and I was very much proactive in the sense that if this is my fault, if this is my issue, my doing or whatever, then I'll change it. I'll change it. Now, hindsight's a great thing, but actually looking back in the relationship, I think probably the biggest mental health problem was that I actually stuck around for so long, if you like, or you won't go into that. but yeah, so I realized that there was something I needed to learn from it. And from that point, it was like, okay, well, what is it? And it was almost like I could look at things from a different angle.
Yeah.
And instead of going, well, why me? And kind of feeling sorry and kind of going, almost having that, I wouldn't like almost like a victim mentality. And also I was kind of saying to myself, all these instincts that have kept me alive,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm now being told that they're not to be trusted. And I honestly thought that I was losing my mind. I got to a point where I was going to see the doctor, and I was regurgitating what I was being told, and I was getting told I had a personality disorder, and it's going to take you 4 years to get over it, if you get over it.
Wow.
You know, and like having meetings about, am I going to be able to have contact with my son? And
Wow.
and I was like, what's going on? And then this is how quickly things can change. Once I kind of realized, well, actually, if there's a lesson to be learned and stuff, I within being diagnosed with that personality disorder, within 2 or 3 months, I was signed back off as fit, and I was away working again. And it was almost like just like that, you know. So I suppose the message from that is, I don't want to criticize anybody, but don't always believe the labels. Don't let the labels be attached to you, and that's you kind of walking around going, well, this has happened, this is me, and that's it. I know we've spoken in the past about stuff like post-traumatic growth, about being able to come through an event and actually be better off for it.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
is having a why not me attitude rather than why me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I mean, we've had discussions off air, Steve. I'm on the same page as you in that sense. And life is hard and life is difficult, and it's not a bed of roses. You're here to learn and grow and give back whatever you can, leave your legacy. I'm a strong believer in that. And it's a case of people have these issues. They go to the doctors give them pills, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Some people do need that medical attention, but all it's doing is just masking the problem, or it's kind of putting a little bit of a bubble wrap around it, that the underlying problem is still there until people, delve into the dark night of the soul, and face that problem, like you have been in that position myself for different circumstances. And all the people I've spoken to on here, it's the ones that have delved and faced that. And it's not nice. It's not a nice place to go for a while, but like you said, you wouldn't get given these challenges if you wouldn't be able to deal with them. And the people that can't deal with them, unfortunately, take their own lives. And this is why we're having, the awareness and people like yourself and, the great work that you do. And which leads me to, I'm ranting now here because I'm kind of passionate about it as well, but it leads me on to, you wanted to make a difference. You wanted to, try and give some support back. The greatest people to help other people are the ones that have actually felt and experienced it themselves. So you set up Op Spartan. So tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's more important to include WEO into that, because when I came out the other side of it, I realized how important childhood was in your development. Obviously, it's important in your development, but what I didn't mean, I thought pretty much come through childhood unscathed, and I was fine. I thought I've got a really successful career, Special Forces, MC, all the rest of it. You think brilliant, but it was after all of that it kind of came back to bite me in the backside. And it's great to have a mission, it's great to have a purpose and moving forward. But what happens when you haven't got that? In the absence of that, then the other stuff kind of comes rushing in. So I set WEO up because I wanted to, and like I said, my child was normal. It was, I suppose, I felt unworthy of affection.
Self-worth, then, yeah,
self-worth. So I think there's a lot of people in the military who feel that, and that's why they join and they want to become part of something bigger than themselves. So
a belonging.
So I set up WEO, and it was all about quality family time with your kids. And I still think that's important. But kind of moved on to Op Spartan, and actually, when I set up Op Spartan, it was, like I said, it was a case of another veteran friend taking his life. What really hit home with this guy was that what he was going through was pretty much what I went through. And if I felt like if I just been able to speak to him, I would have been able to say, look, I know where you are. And it wasn't when I was kind of self-harming stuff, it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to end it. It was that I wanted the pain to stop. And how do you, and if I can't find a way out, then what's the point? Sorry, she knows. And so I set up Op Spartan because I thought, right, I want to create this kind of platform. You got governments and charities trying to, do whatever, and whether, some might say some are doing great jobs, some might say they're not. That's not really the argument. My argument was, well, everyone's got a phone. So why not create this kind of tech platform that everyone can tap into? And it's not there as a, I never thought of it as a kind of, when you're down and out to come to. I wanted to create a platform that was there, instead of being reactive, being proactive and kind of solution-based and preventative. So so I set that up, and I had an idea back in April 2019. I set the Facebook group up in October 2019. We got quite a few members, 10,000 members.
Wow, brilliant.
I used the group, for want of a better word, to learn what I felt was needed. My idea at the beginning, back in April 2019, about what was needed is totally different from what I've got now, and it changed and evolved as I learned from the group.
Yes.
So we launched the website, where we soft launched it in the group maybe back in the beginning of July. It's taken us 30 months to get to this point. I think I don't know whether it's kind of strength to carry on, or big-headedness and not accepting.
It's determination. It's determination.
I don't know if I'm just solid and banging my head against a brick wall, but I'm proud of what we've developed, and I do feel like, so I think, if I'm being brutally honest, sometimes something that's missing within the veteran community is remembering who we are and kind of coming together. In the military, we always, there's that saying, improvise, adapt, and overcome. And if we were on the ground, we wouldn't be looking to other people. We'd be like, okay, well, how can we do this ourselves and get around it? And I think sometimes we need to have that, even though a lot of people have left. There's 2.5 million veterans in the UK.
Yes.
Should the government be doing more? Should charities? Is there more people could do? Maybe, but there's more that we could definitely do as 2.5 million people. So that's why I wanted to try and create up this kind of veteran-led, veteran-focused, where everyone's there, peer-to-peer support, and through a tech platform. So effectively, what we grew was it's almost like one of the main functions is our missions function. It's effectively, like I keep saying, effectively, the veteran version of giving, but on a subscription model. So you can then choose that, all your funds are going to the end user.
Yeah,
so that's where we are with that.
So you can see why we've, obviously formed this alliance with the Green Task Force. They're very much on the same page as that. It's not. We've had the comments there, and Andy Steele's it mentioned, obviously, the director of the Green Task Force. So it's not about focusing on the PTSD and the post, traumatic stress. It's as you say, it's the post-traumatic growth, and it's about giving veterans, it's employment pathways, whether it's giving them the help mentally that they need. It's being actively engaged and having a purpose. I think with what you said, that the childhood thing, there's a lot of children out there, a generation that maybe do feel a little bit lost, and they go and join the forces searching for the answers, and then some come out the other side absolutely unscathed and fine and go on to, and some do suffer, and it triggers, it's possibly something that triggered within you, for example, and how you deal with it.
When I did some research before I even set Op Spartan up, a lot of the research I was finding was that actually a lot of post-traumatic stress, PTSD, and issues like that actually related back to childhood. So if you imagine kind of your life as a building and the foundations aren't stable, you've had rocky foundations, you then build on top of it to your adulthood, and then you have a catastrophic event. Yes, there's been an event that's made you sway and your foundations have crumbled. That's the thing that's led to the more severe cases in a lot of people's kind of stories. So I think childhood is important, and I think when you talk about purpose, you need it before you even choose to transition out of the military. You need to work out who you are outside of a uniform. You need to work out. I didn't know who I was. Once you leave the military, you lose your identity, purpose, and structure straight away.
Yeah,
So
I understand that.
to kind of say, all right, you've done your course and a qualification to get into a new employment. That's great, but how do you know who you
Yeah,
are if you're in the right, if you're going to be in the right place? So that's
yeah,
something we focused on. And when Andy rang me, Andy got in touch with me about a year ago, maybe even longer. And when he told me what I was doing, I was like, we need to support this, because getting anybody into nature, it's that saying, isn't it?
mhm.
Nature's the best medicine. So if we can
Yes,
get veterans involved in planting trees and helping with the carbon, with the footprint, and it
yeah,
just seems
having
like,
that purpose. Yeah.
yeah, having the purpose, and it just seems a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I mean, we spoke off air as well. And, it's a case of being, they come out of the forces, and like you say, they don't know what to do, what direction. They kind of get signposted into various things, and then when it doesn't work out, and you can see how the veterans community do end up, some of them homeless, some of them that relationships have broken down, and there needs to, I think there needs to be more done. There needs more help and support. You guys go out and and effectively protect and serve, but when you come out, who's there to protect and serve you
Yeah,
guys? It's
I kind of agree and disagree. I think veteran. I don't. So obviously, I've done a lot of research over the last 2.5 years, and I've looked at things. I think there's a lot of organisations out there that maybe play on our poor veterans to get support for themselves. And
right.
I think most veterans would agree they're very able, very resourceful, but sometimes it's just about having that crutch that allows
Yeah.
them to find the resources that they need to be able to get on. So yeah, it definitely needs to be more added into the system. Definitely needs to be an update and a transition, and obviously like things that we're talking about with the collaboration of Op Spartan and the Green Task Force. But I do think there needs to also be a kind of, let's stop saying for our veterans and let's say, well, actually they're awesome. They've they've fought for our country, so that shows the caliber of person they are.
Yeah.
Let's now say, well, actually, you're not entitled to anything. You decided to join up. You signed up because you wanted to. We're grateful for that service, and be proud of what you've done. But now take that pride with you, and let's see how you can kind of make the next chapter of your life just as rewarding. And let's give them the tools that they can find that for themselves.
Exactly. Tools and guidance. I like that. Yeah. It's the guidance. Yeah.
Like, no, sitting on your hands and going, like, kind of, why isn't someone doing anything for me? It doesn't help anybody in any walk of life, does it? So I think it's a case of, okay, well, we're here to support you, but what do you want to do, and how are we going to do it? And you have to be proactive in that. And I think most veterans are like that. It's just about giving them resources.
Yeah, it's the victim or survivor mentality, isn't it? You're in kind of one or the other category, and something that veterans aren't. They're not victims; they are survivors. So it's a different story.
Well,
So yeah, totally on the same page.
They're not just survivors; they flourish in most environments. So let's remember that and say, right, this isn't like I said to guys in Op Spartan. You get the old sorry, civvies are wankers.
Steady on, not all of them.
I don't agree with that. I'm like, well, civvies can't be anything else but civvies. So if you're in that new area of operation, you need to adapt to that like you would do if you went abroad somewhere. So how do you adapt to that and make it better and give you a different perspective so that you say, well, actually, civvies aren't civvies. They're just different to me. And what do they bring that I don't bring, and how do we come together? Yeah. Different.
Yeah, different experiences, isn't it? I have heard that term a couple of times and had to sort of challenge that, So it's funny you should say that, but it's how it is. So what you're doing is absolutely brilliant, and for the Green Task Force and Pat Foundation, this whole collaboration, this whole community, and things that everybody's creating, it is yes, it's not, like I say, it's not poor veterans, or it's not a handout, or it's more of a helping up, it's more of a guidance, and everybody working together, everybody, not everybody, myself included, it is not ex-forces. There's a lot of people, civvies, as you call them, that want to get involved, collaborate, anything from companies employing to therapists helping with the mental
Yeah.
health side. So it's for everybody. It shouldn't, like you say, it shouldn't be labelled, and it shouldn't be, you know, just pigeonholed into that one box. So
and I think also that in society there's a kind of, like, if you look, when I heard about Just Giving, I was like, well, so you can put any story up and you know, people will just kind of, I was like, it was alien to me. But obviously a lot of Just Givings are supported for people when they're in need. I think, well, why not kind of tweak that a bit and create and just support people to see them flourish, just for the purpose of seeing them flourish, and let's help each other to do better, because when one does better, it brings the rest of us on.
Exactly.
You know, so I think that even that narrative needs changing, where we can, like, just I can't say it any better. I think,
and that's the mindset, isn't it? That's the mindset.
Growth mindset.
Growth mindset, like it. I see you're gonna, we're already collaborating and working really well behind the scenes anyway. So so that's obviously, Stephen, what you do, and thanks for sharing your story. And you know, we've had so many comments, I can't go through them all. They're sort of flagging up. I don't know if you viewers can see them as we can see them, but the amount of support out there for Steve, and you know, with the Op Spartan and what he's doing, and guys are just flagging messages up, and that's lovely. And you know, it's what it's all about. It's about supporting each other, and you know, working together is what I say. So Steve, on a separate note, so I want to find out a little bit more about you. So I've got to say, I've been dared to, but I won't mention their names. He'll know who's watching this, but there is a bit of a likeness of Billy Zane, and to be fair, I do agree. I do agree. So he's asked. Billy Zane, the actor, that was in Titanic. Do you remember Billy Zane?
Oh yeah, Billy Zane. Yeah, when I put the flat cap on.
Yeah, and obviously not to sort of, you know, be rude, but obviously Billy Zane, he did have hair in some films and he had not hair in others. So yeah, the latter Billy Zane. But yeah, I can see that. So there'll be a lot of females watching this thinking, oh yeah, Billy Zane. So there is a little bit of likeness. It's a compliment.
Is it Louis Spence?
Louis Spence. Oh, right. Okay. I know who that is. Do you get that as well? Okay. That's so yeah. So likenesses aside, so you've got, obviously you do a lot of work with your son, and you know, as a single parent, you know, I know that's like, it's kind of, you have to not overcompensate. You just be yourself and give them the best start in life. You know, those first 7 years on the basis of and I know that because I've studied child psychology and development. I did that for my own personal reasons. So those 7 years are the foundation. So tell me, you and your son, you go on adventure weekends, don't you? You sort of take him out in the wild and teach him life skills, which is massively important.
Yeah, I mean, you've met him and seen what a character he is. He's he's my best mate. So Hunter's lived with me for the last kind of 6 years, and that was a massive transition. I was working away at this point, so kind of living out of a bag and at the end of a phone, and kind of, you know, if anything happened around the world, I'd kind of fly out, and that all had to kind of stop overnight, really. So it's been the biggest challenge of my life, kind of transitioning to that. But I think I've done the best job I can with him. But I dare say there's probably going to be sometimes the kind of military head will come out, and I kind of cringe at myself. Yeah, he's my best mate, and I wouldn't change it. He's helped make me a better person. But yeah, we try and get away, especially since lockdowns, when we were kind of you know, obviously in the house all the time. It was just me and H. So now we try and make the most of it. We climbed Ben Nevis in the summer holidays.
Nice.
Totally. Kind of last time I did Ben Nevis, I must have been about 18 years old in the Marines, and I just thought, I'll just crack it again. So we drove up there, didn't have any sleep on the way up. We stopped off to see a good friend in Scotland. Then carried and he was like kind of Glasgow area, and then carried on. But we'll get food when we get there. Nowhere was open. I was like, we'll climb up without it. We'll be all right. There'll be people from the Marines giving me grief now. So anyway, halfway up, not even halfway up. Hunter's like kind of, are we nearly there? I was like, son, we're not even like a third of the way there. and he had a word with himself, and he was like, "No, I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it." And in my head, I was like, "Oh, just say you want to go back."
Yeah, blame the kids. Yeah,
Yeah,
being there, done that.
I
It's
had
for
a
them.
drone and a kit, and also,
Oh,
like, why am I carrying all this kit? There was people up there in shorts and, well, not quite flip flops, but
yeah.
I was there with full kit on as I was getting an ML inspection, 3 pairs of gloves. But yeah,
Oh,
he's
and what great stories and character building, for him, for the future. And
yeah,
the thing is with your kids, you have to do the best job you can because you pass that on, to
yeah,
generations. He'll do the
yeah.
same with his kids, and
That's why I try and get through to him. As I don't want to be a perfect parent because I think it's a unattainable standard, and and if I hold my hands up and say sometimes I've messed up, and I think that's a good message. But also, I also tell him I'm doing the best I can with what I've got, and
yeah.
the stuff he picks up from me that he wish he didn't. Like I picked up from my dad, and it's about just understanding that, and for him to understand that it's not personal. Like, we all have up days, down days, and stress with bills and all the rest of it, and
Yeah.
it's not on them.
It's giving them a realistic. If you wrap them in cotton wool and be fluffy with them 24/7, they'll get into the real world. Somebody will say a bad word or something, they'll go to pieces, and they won't be
Yeah.
able to deal with that. So it's about being the best you can. So before I let you go, I always ask my guests favorite film and favorite song. So what's your favorite film, or do you have a few,
Um,
or one you've just watched recently might be that
favorite film,
impacted you, and why? There you go.
Lion King.
The Lion King.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
Nineteen.
why did you like that?
Me and Hunter singing Hakuna Matata.
There you
So
go. That's your human version.
and best song, yeah, 2 in
Yeah.
1.
Perfect, perfect. So there you go. That's answered that one. And there's another song. So, thanks ever so much for Steve. It's been really great chatting with you. And there's no doubt I shall be inviting you on the show at a later stage also, because there's loads going on. You've got loads still to obviously develop, and
Yeah,
there's going to watch this space, folks, because Steve's going to make a big impact with all the work that he's doing, this worthwhile work. So super excited for that. So yes, thanks ever so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you again for joining us, Steve, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
thank you.
Bye
Thanks a
bye.
lot. Cheers. Bye bye.